All right, and I assume you can also see my screen. So I wanted to just get a session going that talks about all the different regatta-related features in iCrew. I know there's a bunch of folks that probably just went to junior regionals, or they're going to junior regionals, youth regionals, and then masters regionals are coming up, at least in the US. And there's just a bunch of features in iCrew related to regattas that may be not super obvious or out, just people haven't noticed. So this is mainly to go over those. So let's just start by looking at creating a session for a regatta. So for sessions, you can create an individual session that represents a regatta. So I'm just going to this new option, and I want to create a single session of regatta. And I'm just working in my home club of Mount Baker here in Seattle. And I'll just create a session under the comp team. Click create single session. And I'll just call this Northwest Regionals. Now our regionals, like all the other masters regionals, are over 3 days. And one thing you'll want to do is create a session for each day of the regatta. So our masters, Northwest Masters Regionals start on the 17th and goes 18th, 19th, and 20th of next month. I'm just going to set it for 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we do have a location defined in iCrew that is the location of our regatta. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Vancouver Lake. And the key here is flipping this switch here, session as a regatta. And then putting in a name, US Rowing Northwest. Now, if I just type in that and tab away, it's going to go search Regatta Central and come back and say that it found more than one. So if I scroll down on the list here, I'm going to see what it found based on my search, based on the entry of US Rowing Northwest. So it found the masters and the youth. So if I just put more in the name here, just put in master. Now it's found a direct hit, and a key thing that it's done is pulled in the regatta ID from Regatta Central and plugged it in here. 7758 is the regatta ID assigned to this Northwest Masters Regionals in Regatta Central. And this is a very important field because, as I said, you want to create a regatta session for each day. So when I come back and create a session for Saturday and another one for Sunday, all 3 of those individual sessions need to have this this same regatta ID in this regatta ID field, because it then links those 3 separate sessions up together to represent all 3 days of the regatta. All right, so I'm not going to actually create this session, but typically also in a regatta, you can set a regatta sign-up deadline. So in our club, the default attendance for a regatta is not attending, so we don't expect everybody to go to the regatta. So we ask people to explicitly toggle in to indicate they want to row. And we usually set a regatta sign-up deadline so that coaches can get lineups and races organized ahead of time. So that's your choice to set a deadline, and your choice to set the default to not attending or attending. And then you just click save and you'll create that session. So we already have our regattas, 3 days of our regatta set up for next month. So I'm just on the sessions calendar here. And if I go over here, I can see regionals day 1 for the masters, regionals day 2, and regionals day 3. So let me just bring up the day 2 session. You can see the lineups are currently private. That's also something you want to do with a regatta, is probably coaches are going to keep regatta lineups private so people aren't talking back and forth about who's in what boat. They just, as you're still working on the lineups, best to keep them private. Notice that regatta ID is all filled in. So let's just go to the lineups page and talk about the options there. Also, at any time, if you guys have a question, just unmute and ask it on the fly here. All right, so this session lineups page looks very much like the regular practice session lineups page, but there's a few things that are different. For one thing, there's a new row in this grid, the event info row. And this is where you can type in an event number and iCrew will go out to Regatta Central and pull back the description of that event number. So you can see here in these lineups, I've got event number 44 plugged in here, and there's a link to the entries list on Regatta Central. So if you tap that, a new window will open and it'll be the other, you'll see the other entries for this particular event number. And it brings back the event title and the date and time of the event. Now, of course, right now, all our regionals, they don't have the time set yet. So it's bringing back a 0 time. So to put in an event number, you just tap this empty cell here, or even tap an existing cell if you had to change this number. But if you just tap, put in 44, you'll see it brings back the link and the title of the event. And if you wanted to clear that out, just click it again and clear it out. Or if you wanted to bring in another event, just tap again the empty cell here and put in the event number. And then you, as normal, put in rowers to the event. And as you put people into a boat, you can see the average age is being calculated on the fly. So that's me in the stroke seat of this 4. And when I pull my tile out of that and throw it over here, you can see the average age of these 3 guys goes to a G average age of 65. And if I put myself back in, we drop to a 64. Also, as long as athletes have their accurate weight in iCrew, you're seeing an average weight of this crew. Nice to be able to match that up with the proper boat. Yeah, as you move people around, just realize your average age is getting calculated on the fly for you right up here. And that's, of course, useful information for the Masters regionals. All right. One thing you can do here as you're working on the regatta lineups, you can see I have 3 rows of boats and races all entered, and they're not in event number order right now. They're kind of all over the place with a bunch of empty cells. That's just as we're working this list, we're just putting different races in different parts of the boat or parts of the grid. Kind of unorganized, but there is this button here to reorder all lineups by event info. So if I tap that button, the whole list gets resorted by event number, and you got a nice clean grid again. So that's pretty handy. Another thing that you have at the bottom of the screen, let me just collapse up some of this stuff. Keep in mind that the little reminder of the Masters age groups is down here at the bottom. So you know what a AA through K age groups are. This is also very handy race count information. So at our regionals, we're limited in the number of events each person can enter. And remember, I have 3 sessions spread across 3 days. Right now, if I click refresh, if I've moved people around in the grid up here and I click refresh, I can see a race count for each person. So I can see, is anybody not racing on this day? Do I have somebody in too many races? And if I uncheck this session only, iCrew is going to go out to those other 2 sessions and put in race count, pull in the race count data for each person. And now I can see over the 3 days, got a few people with 6 races, a few with 3 and 4 here. I've only got a coxswain assigned to 1 race. This person only has 2. Of course, you're looking for anybody with no races. That wouldn't be good. But this race info is very, very handy. Again, uncheck this box if you want to pull in data across all 3 sessions, or just if you want to look at an individual session, which is representative of just a single day at the regatta, you can check that box and click refresh. Another kind of handy feature, just as you're working this list, to get an idea if you might have some conflicts of races that are too close together, when you tap a tile, it will highlight elsewhere in the lineups where that person is boated. So here I've tapped my tile and I can see I'm also down in this race at the end of the day, so that shouldn't be a conflict. So Again, if I tap a tile, here's an event 68 and event 79 for Ed. Might be a little close. We'll see when the heat times get released, but that's just another nice feature to just call attention to the place you've got somebody in the grid. And then at the top of the page, you've got some links to quickly get you around. These two are probably the most useful. I can bounce over to day 1 and bounce over to day 3 and then back to day 2 very quickly. All right, any questions on Regatta lineups? All right. Now let me just go back to the session. I'm on this day 2 session. So this is our Saturday session. From the other options list, there's a link to the Regatta information page. So we have 3 separate sessions to do the lineups for the Regatta, but then there's a single record that represents the information for the Regatta. So from any of the 3 session records, I can go to Regatta info page and it's going to be the same thing that comes up. And this is the overall information about this regatta. So it's our US Rowing Northwest Masters Regionals. Again, that regatta ID is sitting here. It starts on Friday the 17th and it ends on the 19th. And some key information here. You can certainly fill in some other fields. That sign up deadline is here. You can specify who's driving to and from the regatta, general notes, arrival notes for the athletes. If volunteers needed, you can put some notes in there. You can talk about the venue and parking. You can say whether there's food available, that sort of thing. But probably the most critical pieces of data on this regatta info page are the date you're loading the trailer and the time you're loading the trailer. And in our case, I'm sure we are loading it Thursday morning at practice. So I'm going to go ahead and just set that. And perhaps some notes. You can even upload a little diagram of how the trailer needs to be loaded. And then when will the trailer be unloaded? And in our case, it'll be Monday morning, probably first thing in the morning. We'll all come unload the boat. So once you save that, for folks that have other teams at the club or perhaps a club that allows individual boat reservations, all the boats that you've put in any of those 3 days of lineups, based on the trailer load and unload dates and times, those boats will show as unavailable to the rest of the club. So it's a very handy way to make sure people know, hey, we got a bunch of boats and oars going to the regatta and we're loading them on the trailer on this day and this time, and they're going to be unloaded on this day and this time. In between that, of course, they're not going to be available. And then speaking of the trailer itself, iCrew has a fully featured trailer loading manifest. So it looks across all those sessions and looks at all the boats you've assigned, and we'll list all the boats here, and you can actually, check them off as you load them. And each boat you can make a note of where on the trailer it goes or any other miscellaneous note, and that's available for every boat. And it'll also pull in equipment that you might have flagged as equipment that always goes to a regatta. That's a feature when you have an asset in your equipment list. So anything marked as always going to the regatta will also show up in your trailer loading manifest. And then you can also add just any miscellaneous item to this list. All right, let me pop over to a regatta we went to last month, Lake Stevens. So I'll just show you the export lineups feature. So this was just a single day regatta, but this export lineups feature can be handy for folks that want to print out the lineups using like an Excel spreadsheet. There are some requirements here. You do have to have event numbers filled in and a boat assigned to your lineups for this export lineups to work work correctly. So if you hit export lineups, you get this grid view of all the races in race number order. You get the event number, the start time, any notes you may have entered, the boat, oars, and the rowers. You can see that's for the all the races for that regatta. If this, again, was our regionals going across 3 days, you'd see all of that here. And the good part is tap this button to download it, and you can open this up in Excel. And I've seen many clubs where they have this big spreadsheet printed out and pinned up at the tent or near the boats, and everybody can look at it as a reference sheet of events that are upcoming and races they have to prep for. So be aware of that regatta lineups feature. Export lineups right there. Another handy feature is this regatta registration report. Now, unfortunately, you spend all this time getting lineups set, and they're sitting here in iCrew. It'd be nice if Regatta Central had an interface that they could be uploaded, but they do not. And I've talked to them many times, and they've got a number of reasons why they can't support it. So unfortunately, somebody does have to sit on the Regatta Central site and get all this data loaded in for the regatta. So here, this regatta registration report is designed to help you just get the data transferred over to Regatta Central. So you can see it lists all your events, the event title, start time, link to the other entries, and the shell they're going to use, and the oars, which isn't all that important for regatta registration, but it then lists every person going, their age, and their US rowing number, and their average age. So you can make sure that there's kind of another point to double check that you don't have an inappropriately aged boat in an event. So this is a G average age boat, and this was a men's Masters 4+. There was no age category or limit, so we're good there. But at regionals, of course, lots of races are split by age category. All right, had my list of things to go through. I'm just double checking it. I've talked about all that. Yep. I think that really covers the main points I wanted to note. Oh, and of course, a regatta session, unlike a regular practice session, you can reuse a boat multiple times, of course, for multiple races, and rowers can, of course, appear in multiple events. So yeah, kind of open it up for questions if anybody has any.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi,
this
Carol.
is Carol Johnson in Michigan. We're new to iCrew, started using it last year. Could you show us how this looks to just somebody who has signed up for a regatta? Can you show me what their view looks like?
Sure. Let me think the best way to do that. So if somebody just logs in on their phone and they go to their attendance plans, of course, I'm on a big screen here, so I'm going to see if this is going to work, because I think our lineups are okay. They're visible to me right now, even though they're marked private because I have admin permissions. But basically, the regatta lineups page, they can toggle in and out here if they'd like. And of course, after the deadline, the session gets locked. And then if they have to toggle out, they have to contact a coach to make sure they have to back out of the regatta. But the regatta lineups page is here. It will give them a number of options. One thing it does is highlight their name in the lineups, and they can choose to filter to just their own races using this drop-down list. They can choose to highlight somebody, maybe a friend. They want to see what races that person's in. They can do that. And then they can show all days of the regatta or individual, just a single day. So here I'm seeing all the races for Friday the 17th, and it's loading up the races for Saturday and Sunday too. So from a high level view, the main thing is from their attendance plans, first of all, to toggle into the regatta. At the top here, they typically have the regattas hidden, so they have to show them, and then here they can toggle in or out of the regatta. So that's the main thing athletes need to do first, is indicate whether they're going or not. And then once lineups have been made public by the coach, once they're done and finalized, clicking this link will take you to that page I was just on where they can actually see their lineups. Then on the day of the regatta, they will also have the today's lineup page will pop up, and they'll see at least one race will show for that day. It's the first race of the day, and there'll be a link to see again all the races for that day. So that's kind of the main things: how to toggle into a regatta from their attendance plans, and then again, once lineups are done, they can tap this link to see those lineups.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. And I think one other option too is that regatta information page is available to everybody to see the data. They can't update any data here, but they can see if they were interested when the trailer's being loaded and unloaded and other information that somebody has entered about the regatta. Hey, Steve, we're about wrapped up, but I did record this, so I'll share the link. I'm just kind of going over any questions folks have had. Yeah, so any other questions, Rhonda? I'm not sure who's LA Dolph, but feel free.
I'm late.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, any other questions from anybody? All right, well, keep it nice and short. Again, I'll post the link to this recording so folks, you can share it with others to go through it. I think we stepped through everything here in about 20 minutes, so won't be too much for people to sit and watch. All right. Yeah, thanks for jumping on the call. I hope it was useful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.